Things that are important to all of us as we go on this journey through life. And I suppose what I'm going to speak to you a little bit about is from a faith perspective. And I believe it's very important that we live the faith life that we were born into. And I am very grateful to my parents for the faith life I was born into. You might think, and it's easy sometimes as we go through life to think that God's a bit irrelevant and we don't really need Him because everything's going smooth. But then sometimes the curveball sent your way, and that's maybe the time that you know that you need God more than anything else. It's very easy to be feel self-sufficient when everything's going good, but life's not always like that. The life changes from time to time, and we need to be ready for that. I suppose I want to tell you a little bit about myself in terms of my faith perspective and where it come from. And obviously it come from my family, my mother and father. I'm the youngest of 10 children. One little girl died before I was born, so I never met her, but it's only later in life that I really began to realise that she is my sister, and she's a very special sister now because she's in heaven already long before us. So that's something I didn't realise until I was quite older than I should have been to realise it. And then I have 2 brothers who died as well. One brother died on October 2010, just the October before Michaela died, and another brother died on the night after her month's mind. My eldest brother Paddy died. Both have been ill for maybe a year and a half. My father died on the 9th of August 1990, and that in itself was an awakening experience for me too, because myself and Marion and our children had been on holidays for a few days, and we came back on the road home, and there was a man lying on the roadside, and it could have been a neighbour man or it could have been my father. It actually turned out to be my father, and I thought obviously it was an awful tragedy, and it was very difficult to take, a very big shock to the system. But on reflection, I was able to say that it was a blessing in many ways, because in his last moments it was one of his own children was with him, when it could have been anybody, it could have been a stranger, it mightn't have been found for hours. So even something that looks like a tragedy can become a blessing. I was no different when I was young. When my father called to have the rosary said, regardless of who was in the house, it was said. We all went down on our knees and said the rosary, and you thought it was a long prayer, and you probably wished you were somewhere else when he called it. But I'm also very grateful when I look back on it that I was present, that he had that dedication to the rosary, because that sowed the seeds of faith really deep in our hearts. And even though our lives went on and we had to rear our own families in the so-called busy world that we live in, and maybe didn't attend to it the way that he and mummy did, I still have a great love for the rosary. And even driving along in the car, we'd often say the rosary. Our children would join in the rosary, and I still say the rosary every day. In fact, maybe for a while you didn't say it every day, but I've certainly come back to it now, and I would never miss a day without saying the rosary. And then fast forward on to my own life, and I met Marion, my wife, in 1975, and we got married in July 78, and we were blessed with 4 children, and that is a blessing. Never forget that every person that's born in this world is a blessing, regardless of who they are, what shape or size they are, or who anybody else thinks of them. They're a blessing from God, and I do believe that so much. So they're a blessing and a challenge, because sometimes they're given to you as a gift, and you might not always get keeping that gift as long as you want to. So we have Mark and Michael and Matthew, 3 boys, and we have Michaela, and thanks be to God, we had Michaela, and it was a tragedy that we lost her, and it was very, very difficult for sure, but I still had the grace from God to reflect on this through a different lens. And that doesn't mean to say that it was easy, that it wasn't emotional, that it isn't very sad. Many, many days you just think about, you wish Michaela was still alive. And then God gives you the grace to say, you had a gift for 27 years on this earth, and now we have a gift forevermore in heaven. And I believe that to be the case. And I believe that I have actually more access to Michaela now than I had when she was alive in this world, because of my faith, and because I know that that's the faith that she had as well. And there's a wee quote I came across once which really makes us to be very aware of this. It says, the problem with being in a rat race is that even if you win the race, you're still a rat. So, we need to watch out for that. As well as being good to talk, it's even better to listen. And that's what I'm getting at all the time here. Encounter people where they are, not where you'd like them to be. Don't become a fixture of somebody else. Become somebody who is there for somebody else. Because even though there's much of this buzz going on, there's a lot of people who feel alone. That's the fact of life. We know the statistics that prove that. you can be a catalyst to improve that statistic and make it a much more meaningful and better one, because people care about each other.
And we got in there and we volunteered for a few weeks in this slum where the kids, when you go over the tracks, they don't have any clothes on, they're playing football with a plastic bottle filled with cement and all that. The houses are made of mud and tin and all the rest of it. And so here we were in this mad place. We made this video, we went in with a camera and we tried to shoot it, and a few weeks later we edited it together. And after that we were able to give this small little charity a video, and they were able to use that video then to go and get more work and more money. And then we went to our next town and we started to tell the hotel owners that we were documentary filmmakers, and they said, well, instead of actually paying for staying here, why don't you actually just make us a video? And so then we started to make videos for hotels and for tours, and instead of actually just doing it in exchange, we started to get paid. And then that started this process whereby for the last 4 years, myself and my wife have been traveling all over the world, through Asia, Latin America, Australia, New Zealand, back to Europe, and we've been making videos, telling people stories, writing for websites, writing books. My wife has written 2 books, I've written this book. And that all started from that moment when I stood in that street in Sydney. And if you ever want to get in touch at all, I'm Sober Paddy online. You can just Google all the Sober Paddy stuff. And I want to thank you all for listening. You've been very attentive and great. And if you do have any questions, please shoot from the hip. Thank you.